hundreds of albums get thrown into these random groups of four. You listen again and again, you rank them 1 to 4, and only the top 2 get to advance. It's forced discovery, isn't it?
It is. It's deep analysis, and as we'll see, it's sometimes the brutal revisiting of old favorites.
In today's session, our focus is on round 2, group 46, and this is a critical stage.
The stakes are just immense here because the overall quality has objectively gone way up. We're past that initial, weeding out process.
Right, there are no weak links anymore. Every album here has already won a tough fight to even be in round 2.
Exactly. We've got 4 titans, or at least 4 very, very serious contenders, all battling for just 2 spots in round 3.
And the lineup is, well, it's stellar, but it's also wonderfully varied. You've got A New Day at Midnight by David Gray.
The poet.
Yes. Then Drops of Jupiter by Train, the sort of sophisticated soft rockers. Medusa by the one and only Annie Lennox.
The vocal powerhouse.
And then the behemoth in the room, the high-energy, politically charged American Idiot by Green Day.
And the source material, it's quite clever. It gives us the result right away in the title of the group, which just sets the scene perfectly.
It does. It says, David Gray is turned to stone by Medusa while train get derailed along the Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It tells you exactly who the winners are going to be, Green Day and Annie Lennox, before we even start.
It's brilliant. It weaves everything together. You have the Medusa myth, turning David Gray to stone, which symbolizes Lennox's just overwhelming vocal power.
And then the nod to Green Day's own massive hit, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, as the thing that derails Train. It's perfect.
It just frames the whole thing as this high-quality but absolutely brutal knockout round.
And what's really fascinating here, and I think this is what makes this particular group stand out, is the sheer rise in musicianship.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the source notes make a very strong case that, if you look at 3 of the 4 albums here, the technical prowess is just on another level.
Okay.
You're talking about really nuanced arrangements on the Train album. You've got incredible instrumentalism and vocal control from Annie Lennox, and even David Gray's quiet piano melodies. They stood up surprisingly well.
So you've got this very polished, technically superior artistry on one side.
Right, with Lennox and Train and even Gray.
And then on the other side, you've got Green Day, whose whole identity is built on raw zest, on punk energy and power.
Precisely. And so the big question becomes, can that visceral impact, that raw energy, overcome pure technical refinement when the pressure is really on?
It suggests Green Day couldn't just phone it in. They had to bring something more than just fast guitars to the table.
They absolutely did. And that's the tension this whole album quest system exploits. They needed substance. And we're going to see how that whole concept album structure is what helps them win.
But before we dive into Group 46 itself, we have to establish the context, don't we?
We absolutely must. You can't really appreciate how tough this round is without knowing how these 4 albums managed to qualify from round 1.
It proves their merit.
It solidifies the fact that there are no easy opponents left.
So where should we start?
Let's start with the eventual winner of this group, Green Day's American Idiot. It qualified from round 1, group 134, and that group, the author of the source notes is very clear. It was a textbook group of death.
A group of death. For anyone who's not familiar with that sports term, it basically means a group where almost everyone is a top contender.
Exactly. No easy wins. It's not one favorite and 3 easy outs. It's 4 albums fighting tooth and nail for just those 2 spots.
So who did they have to beat to get through?
This is what's so impressive. American Idiot actually finished 2nd in that group.
Second. Okay.
And look who it knocked out. Jerry Rafferty's classic Night Owl.
A great album.
And this is the really big one. Lady Gaga's debut masterpiece, The Fame.
Wow. The Fame. I mean, that is a genuine pop culture touchstone. To knock that out in the first round that's just brutal.
It's absolutely brutal. And the author specifically notes feeling bad about it. That's how you know the system is working, right?
Yeah.
It forces you to make these incredibly tough calls and leave sentimentality at the door.
So it proved its mettle immediately. But if it came in second, who did it lose to?
Paul Simon's Graceland.
Okay, well, there is absolutely no shame in that.
None whatsoever. Losing to Graceland is practically a win in itself. So it means American Idiot comes into this round 2 group already battle-tested. It's faced a world champion contender and held its own.
That gives it some serious credibility. What about Annie Lennox?
Right, so Medusa, she qualified from round 1, group 111. And she did it in style. She finished first overall.
And there was a fascinating little wrinkle in her group, wasn't there?
A huge one. I mean, yes, she beat Not That Kind by Anastasia and also its debut album.
Both big albums in their own right.
But she also beat herself. Medusa was ranked higher than her other landmark album, Diva.
That is a ruthless internal ranking.
It is. It suggests that in this forced subjective appraisal, the material and the performance on Medusa, which we'll get to as all covers, was just marginally more compelling than her own critically acclaimed original work.
So to advance, it had to be the best of 4 albums, fronted by incredibly strong female voices. That says a lot.
A huge amount. It's a real testament to the power of that record.
Okay, that brings us to Train's journey with Drops of Jupiter.
They qualified from round 1, group 198, and they managed to secure the second spot.
Their group was pretty varied, from what I remember.
Supremely varied, which kind of speaks to the almost universal appeal of their sound. They managed to knock out Barbra Streisand's Love Is the Answer.
Wow, Streisand.
And a 70s classics compilation album. It just shows the wild variety the Quest compiler enjoys, that Streisand and Train can even end up in the same group. And Train held on.
But they did finish behind another album.
They did. They finished behind Paloma Faith's Do You Want the Truth or Something Beautiful.
So what does that tell us? It suggests that while Drops of Jupiter is very solid, very competitive, maybe it wasn't the huge, definitive standout in its first grouping.
I think that's fair. It comes into round 2 as a dependable contender, but maybe not, a fearsome one.
And finally, the dark horse.
Yes, the one that shocked everyone, David Gray's A New Day at Midnight.
The source material mentions that the author initially misremembered Gray's first-round group as being pretty weak.
He did, yeah. The feeling was that maybe his presence in round 2 was a bit of a fluke, a bit lucky.
But checking the records corrected that perception immediately.
Massively. Gray qualified from round 1, group 125. He finished second, behind Blur's classic Modern Life is Rubbish.
That's already a tough second spot to claim.
It is, but here is the absolute crucial detail. This is what justifies his place in this high-quality round 2. He took out Ronnie James Dio's middle classic, Holy Diver.
You just have to pause there for a second. David Gray, the quiet, introspective piano poet,
Yes.
defeats Dio, the titan of operatic heavy metal, an album that is foundational for an entire genre. The contrast is it's unbelievable.
It speaks volumes about the value of this album quest structure, doesn't it?
But I have to ask, for the author to rank a quiet piano album above Holy Diver, does that suggest a really heavy genre bias towards softer music? Or is this process truly genre agnostic?
That is the core insight, I think. The album quest, when it's done right, forces the reviewer to just ignore genre bias. You have to focus purely on compositional quality, on emotional resonance, on how well the album holds together as a piece of work.
So the fact that Gray's quiet compulsion proved stronger than the sheer bombast and technical riffing of one of metal's most revered albums.
It means Gray's compositions must have this undeniable inner strength, a strength that just transcends genre. So yes, A New Day at Midnight absolutely deserved its shot at round 2, even if, as we know, he struggled to keep up in the end.
So we have our 4 contenders, all highly qualified, all proven, each having survived a really difficult, idiosyncratic round 1.
And now they all meet in Group 46.
Let's shift our focus then to the album that came out on top, the one that dominated the field, Green Day's American Idiot.
As we established, Green Day needed that substance to stand up against the musical complexity of their rivals. And boy, did American Idiot deliver.
It delivered in a way that just grabs you immediately. The source notes say that initially the album just stormed out of the blocks, looked like a hugely clear winner.
And a big part of that is energy. It has more raw energy than the rest of this group put together. That gives it an undeniable edge, especially on the first listen.
But energy alone isn't enough to win in round 2.
Not at all. And this is what elevates American Idiot. It's a fully realized, cohesive artistic statement. The source calls it an arty, politically charged concept album reflecting contemporary societal themes.
It tells a story.
It does. It's the story of the Jesus of suburbia, of St. Jimmy, and what's her name. And that narrative structure that gives it a weight and a depth that really holds up across those forced, repeated listens. It's not just a collection of singles.
The technical side of it is so important here. You mentioned the producer, Rob Cavallo, a legendary figure. His influence is why the album is described as supremely well executed. He managed to keep that punk rawness, but still give it clarity and a commercial polish.
That's his genius, balancing that aggression with accessibility.
How did he do that, technically? What did he bring to the table?
Well, he allowed the instruments to sound raw, almost like a garage band. You get those furious drums, that really cutting guitar tone. But then he layered the vocals beautifully. He sharpened all the dynamics. And crucially, he gave the album a sonic consistency.
Which is what you need to make a 9-minute epic feel as cohesive as a 3-minute pop song.
Exactly. He basically took a punk band and gave them the production muscle of a prog rock band. It allows for that complexity without anything ever sounding muddy or lost in the mix. And that polish is absolutely key to maintaining quality over nearly an hour of relentless rock.
And that coherence, that's what the source really highlights. The tracks blend seamlessly. There are barely any dull moments, no real dips in quality. It feels like a single piece of work, almost like a rock opera.
Which is an incredibly demanding structure for a punk band to pull off.
And the musical markers, they're what anchor the whole concept.
They are. You have that bombastic start with the lead single, American Idiot. It just grabs you by the throat and sets this confrontational tone.
But the album really earns its artistic stripes with its centerpiece.
Oh, yes. The sprawling 9-minute rock fest that is Jesus of Suburbia.
That track alone just elevates the album so far above standard pop punk. It shows they were willing to embrace those progressive rock structures, that complexity.
It's an ambitious 5-part suite. I mean, that's almost unheard of for a band in their genre, especially at that level of fame.
It really functions like the central novel of the whole piece, doesn't it?
It does. It introduces the main character, the themes of alienation, social critique, its length and its varied movements, from that ballad-like intro to the explosive power chords. It demands your attention.
But because it's so well produced and flows so well, it actually makes the next tracks, like the anthemic Holiday, feel like an earned release of tension.
A perfect description. And then, commercially, you can't forget what anchored this whole ambitious project.
The two massive global anthems.
Boulevard of Broken Dreams and Wake Me Up When September Ends.
These tracks gave the album its emotional core, but also the commercial ballast it needed. Without those huge, recognizable hits, I wonder if a concept album like this could have reached such a massive audience.
It's a fair question. They were essential. So what you're left with is what the source calls a rock-solid punk prog rock explosion that is unrelenting from start to finish.
Yeah.
You just can't deny its power.
And yet, this is where the quality of the competition really showed its teeth. The source notes that even though American Idiot stormed out of the blocks, it was reeled in a little by Train and Lennox on repeated listens. How does a cohesive rock opera get challenged by a soft rock album and a covers album?
It suggests a potential fatigue factor, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, while Green Day's immediate energy and conceptual flow are just unmatched in this group, the source material implies that the deeper musical arrangements, the sheer vocal power of Lennox, the solid song structures of Train, they provided a more nuanced kind of enjoyment that started to close the gap after a few listens.
So American Idiot is maybe more demanding or even exhausting to listen to repeatedly.
It could be. Whereas the others, especially Lennox, are perhaps more enduring in their, let's say, interpretive depth.
But ultimately, it wasn't enough to knock Green Day off the top spot. The political urgency, the perfect execution is just too much.
It secured first place. The conclusion from the source is clear. American Idiot stands as Green Day's greatest triumph. It's the highest expression of their artistry, their politics, and it's all wrapped in perfect production.
Okay, so that's first place sorted. Now for what you called the real dogfight.
The battle for that second qualifying spot. This is where it pitted the clinical covers of Annie Lennox against the solid, sophisticated soft rock of Train.
It's a battle of interpretive genius versus compositional reliability.
That's a great way to frame it.
Let's start with Train and Drops of Jupiter. The source describes it as delivering that solid, sophisticated kind of soft rock.
It's an excellent example of its genre. It sits really comfortably in that space between raw rock and polished pop, which makes it very broadly appealing.
And its longevity is a key factor in this quest, isn't it? The source says it holds up really well, even 2 decades later.
It does. And it's not just about the huge title track. The album has real depth. Tracks like Whipping Boy, She's on Fire, Hopeless. These are just really well-constructed songs with good, solid arrangements.
We also have to put their success into the Grammy context. I mean, they didn't just have a hit song.
No. They brought home 2 Grammys for Drops of Jupiter back in 2001, including Best Rock Song. That is a massive level of external validation for the quality of that one song.
The production style is noted as being key to its identity. It's described as more organic, with looser rhythms, What does that actually mean for the listener?
It means the sound is less engineered,
Yeah.
more like a live band in a room. The drums might breathe a little more. The guitars have a more natural tone. The pacing feels driven by the band's own timing rather than a perfect, rigid metronome.
And Pat Monahan's vocals fit that style.
Perfectly. He delivers this excellent, warm vocal performance that just slots right into that organic smoothness. It feels very comfortable, very inviting.
And that organic feeling is the crucial point of contrast when we compare it to the album that beat it, right?
Absolutely. Annie Lennox's Medusa.
Speaking of Medusa, the source describes it as a powerhouse of interpretation. And this is where it gets, as the notes say, really interesting.
Because of the surprise fact that this album, her second studio album, is entirely an album of covers.
Which is astonishing. The author admits they didn't even realize they were covers until they revisited the notes years later.
And that has to be the highest compliment you can pay an interpreter, doesn't it?
It has to be. She doesn't just mimic the songs, she completely inhabits them. She makes them sound utterly new and totally personal.
And the source material she chose was fantastic. So diverse, crossing multiple genres. You've got Al Green's Take Me to the River, Bob Marley's Waiting in Vain, Paul Simon, Something So Right.
Alongside huge classics like A Whiter Shade of Pale.
Her vocal emotion is the real power source here. The source describes the experience as both beautiful and powerful. It's a fantastic vocal performance on every single song.
And it's not just about technical ability, is it? It's the emotional investment she brings.
Completely. She conveys this deep impression that these songs are incredibly personal to her. You can feel the heartbreak, the vulnerability in tracks like her versions of Stand By Me or A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. She doesn't just sing them. She delivers a masterclass in vocal ownership.
Okay, let's go back to that production contrast. Train was organic and looser. Medusa is described as clinical.
Stark, even.
What's the functional difference for the listener between an organic and a clinical production, especially when the music is so focused on the vocals?
Well, in a clinical style, every single element is there to serve the vocal. It means precise, sharp engineering. Very tight rhythms, not a lot of sonic decoration, none of that acoustic, room feel.
And it creates a pedestal for her voice.
The perfect, almost sterile pedestal for her incredibly emotive voice. So where Train's organic style invites you into a warm room with the band, Lennox's clinical style projects her voice directly into your mind. It's all about emotional clarity over instrumental texture.
And in the end, that combination superior material, even if it was covered, and that clinical precision, it won the day.
It did. The source is explicit. Medusa powered past Train because of superior material and performances. Her interpretive genius was just more enduring, more compelling in the context of forced re-listening than Train's very good compositional dependability.
So we have our winners. Green Day by conceptual power, Annie Lennox by vocal mastery, which leaves poor David Gray in fourth place.
Though not without putting up a much stronger fight than his reputation might suggest.
Absolutely. Let's delve into his album, A New Day at Midnight. We have to acknowledge the common criticism, which the source reflects, that his music can be seen as very gray and dull at times.
Even a bit lifeless.
And the source material supports this with specific examples. It's not just a baseless critique. The pacing becomes an issue.
It does. A track like Freedom, for example. It has a decent melody, but it's 6 minutes long. It becomes rather uninspiring. The track December is noted as having a similar, very languid tendency.
When the whole album is mostly in that subdued, melancholic mood, the momentum can just grind to a halt, especially in a competitive setting like this.
The desire for just a little injection of tempo is a direct quote from the source. It's clearly what the reviewer was craving.
So in a way, Gray is a victim of his own style. It's deeply emotional, it's introspective, but it's sometimes just too languid for an aggressive tournament that rewards impact and momentum.
But we have to balance that because he clearly has immense talent. That's why he knocked out Dio in the first round.
Right. He is an excellent musician and songwriter, and there are quality compositions on this album. Caroline, the other side, real love.
The instrumentation is deceptive. It's often simple, just piano and some subtle electronic textures, but it's very effective.
And at his core, he's a poet. His lyrics are what really stand out.
They really do. The source pulls out some specific examples. From the song Real Love, there's the line, "The dawn in all its majesty is watching me."
That's beautiful. It's so visual.
Or from Other Side. Another mirage folds into the haze of time recalled. I mean, he paints these incredible emotional pictures with his words.
But in the end, That quiet compulsion just wasn't enough, was it?
Not against Green Day's concept or Lennox's vocal firepower. He needed that injection of tempo, that energy the others had in spades.
This revisitation of David Gray's work, even though he finished fourth, it triggered a really powerful memory for the author, didn't it?
It did. A memory about artistic struggle versus commercial indifference. It relates to his earlier massive hit, Babylon.
Which, importantly, is not on this album.
No, but the spirit of that song and what it represented connects to this wider narrative of, well, perceived injustice in music history.
This anecdote perfectly illustrates the emotional stakes that the author attaches to Gray's art, which is why the album quest is so valuable. It forces you to be impartial.
Exactly. The story is about an ITV show from around the year 2000, Song of the Year or Record of the Year.
And the author's conviction at the time was absolute. He was certain that Babylon, which he calls a superb little song, should win.
It represented serious, well-crafted songwriting. And when you look at the context of the pop charts at that time, it really stood out.
It was a personal artistic fight for him.
And that context is so key to understanding the sheer disgust that followed. We have to remember what the pop landscape looked like in 2000.
Oh, it was a bubblegum explosion, pure pop saturation.
It was. You had Spice Girls, Jerry Halliwell, Billy Piper, A1, Steps 5, Ronan Keating.
So David Gray felt like this mature, serious alternative. He was the compositional antidote to the pop factory.
Precisely. So the horror, after 2 hours of anticipation, came when the award went not to David Gray,
But to a boy band.
to Boyzone or Westlife. The author can't quite remember which, but the effect was the same. He was so disgusted by this perceived injustice that he just abandoned watching the show forever.
It just shows how personal these musical rankings can be, and how frustrating it is when you feel like artistic quality is being overshadowed by commercial dominance.
And the album quest is, in a way, a corrective to that kind of mass market disappointment. By forcing himself to give a new day at midnight a fair, unbiased ranking, he validated Gray's skill even in defeat.
If we check the historical context, were the charts in 2000 really that weak?
Well, the best-selling singles in the UK that year confirm it wasn't exactly a banner year for classic songwriting.
But there were some good tracks. The Source mentions Leanne Rimes' Can't Fight the Moonlight, U2's comeback with Beautiful Day.
And critically, a work of genius like Eminem's Stan.
Ah, yes.
But the truly frustrating detail, the one that perfectly encapsulates the chaotic nature of that year's charts, Eminem's Stan. A song with incredible lyrical depth, narrative complexity, unbelievable artistic risk, lost the coveted Christmas #1 slot to Bob the Builder.
To Bob the Builder. Okay, that says it all.
It perfectly explains the author's frustration and why he felt so passionately that David Gray's subtlety and skill were being overlooked for more commercial, fleeting hits.
So David Gray, a poet, a skilled musician, but he ultimately falls short in Group 46. He put up a stronger fight than expected, but the fire of Green Day and the vocal superiority of Annie Lennox were just too much.
Let's synthesize all of this then. Let's confirm the final official rankings for Round 2, Group 46.
In fourth place, despite his admirable effort in that huge Round 1 upset, we have A New Day at Midnight by David Gray, eliminated for a lack of tempo and comparative energy.
In third place, knocked out after a very strong showing, we find Drops of Jupiter by Train. Their solid, organic rock just lost out to the enduring quality of Annie Lennox's interpretive precision.
Which means our two qualifiers for Round 3 are, in second place, Medusa by Annie Lennox, securing her spot through that superior vocal artistry and clinical execution.
And taking the top spot by harnessing power, concept, and commercial polish, the powerhouse album American Idiot by Green Day.
So Green Day and Annie Lennox advance. The title's prophecy was correct. But the real takeaway here isn't just the result. It's the value of the whole album quest structure itself.
It's not about the result, it's about the process.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, beyond just finding out who won this one group?
It's about challenging the assumptions you hold about your own media consumption.
And the key revelation from the author is the most valuable insight of this whole analysis.
He explicitly states that 3 of the 4 albums in this group, so Gray, Train, and Lennox, would likely never have been returned to for another dedicated, focused listen if the tournament hadn't forced it.
That is a huge statement. Think about your own music library, your own bookshelf. How many albums or books have you bought, consumed once or twice, thought, yeah, that's pretty good, and then just let them gather digital dust?
Exactly. They might be genuinely strong pieces of work, but they lack that immediate fire of your absolute favorites, and so they get forgotten.
This process, this album quest, it acts as a quality control mechanism. It prevents good material from being lost to time or your own preconceptions.
By forcing a dedicated comparative re-listening, you have to appreciate the quality of the technical arrangements in the Train album, or the poetic depth in David Gray's lyrics, or the sheer vocal prowess of Annie Lennox, even if their genre isn't your usual go-to.
It's a process that turned David Gray from a potentially dull artist into a respected contender whose poetry was carefully considered. It elevated a covers album from a curiosity into a definitive example of superior performance.
It forces clarity. You have to make tough, reasoned choices between completely different types of excellence. Green Day's conceptual fire versus Lennox's controlled brilliance. And that kind of forced appraisal just maximizes your understanding and appreciation of your own collection.
It really is a mission of rediscovery. It proves that the best album isn't just the one you already love, but maybe the one you're forced to listen to with fresh, attentive ears.